Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Mr. Norris,
And Mr. Lawrence.
and we are back with video number one for you from the unit Rise of Big Business. We're going to talk about railroads today, time zones, how the two relate to each other, and the new industrialization of the United States. It's going to be a fun one today. Okay, so read along on the top of page 4 of your packet, please. Under economic development, it says the Civil War changed the economies of the northern and southern regions of the United States drastically. The war also stimulated economic growth in the North. Meanwhile, the South struggled to recover from the devastation of the war. And that's something we talked about in the last unit of Reconstruction, that the South was utterly devastated from the Civil War.
So let's talk about the North specifically when it comes to economics. So the first thing we have to fill out in our packet is understanding economic development in the North. So two factors that really contribute to Northern economic prosperity are the following. The first one is a large population. Again, we have to realize when we study geography at the very beginning of the course, at this time period, in the late 1800s, the majority of the large population centers are located in the North. Cities like, give me some cities in the Northeast, Mr. Norris.
New York, Philadelphia, Boston.
Exactly. These are huge population centers where you have large amounts of people, which means large amounts of people who can work and be productive. The second factor is an abundance of natural resources. Again, going back to our very first unit when we studied geography, one reason why European powers wanted to control North America was because of our abundance of natural resource. Whether it's lumber, whether it's minerals, whatever you needed, you could really find within the American continent.
And to make a connection to last year in Global 2, if you think about the Industrial Revolution, it started in Great Britain. And the reason it started in Great Britain is they had a large population and they also had an abundance of natural resources.
Also, just sticking with the idea of remembering your Global 2, it starts in Great Britain because at the time of the Napoleonic War, Great Britain was in a peaceful state. So it allowed the economy to grow. Same thing in the North. Even during the Civil War, most of the war itself was fought in the South. So the North had that peace and prosperity that allowed the expansion of industrialization to happen.
You see trends repeating themselves throughout history. All right, so we see a picture of a train here. Choo choo! And we're going to look at economic developments in the North. So the growth of the railroads opened new markets in the West and brought products of Western farms to industries of the East. Mr. Lawrence, we're going to talk a lot about this term, new markets. What is a market?
So a market is really just a place where you can sell stuff. And it's an opportunity to sell stuff to large groups of people.
So we're going to be talking about markets and opportunities for people to sell. So we're going to focus on how did the railroads contribute to the economic growth of the United States? What do you think?
Well, I think railroads are used to really move stuff and people. So it helps to promote trade across the continent. So railroads provided jobs as well. You have to build these railroads. It's a large industrial process to create and develop a railroad. So very important. These two things combined help with northern development.
And railroads really are kind of like the new canals. They're much faster and they're much better at transporting goods. They will have a larger impact than canals did. Okay, let's talk about time zones. There are currently 4 in the continental United States. You have the Eastern Standard Time Zone, which we live in, and half of Kentucky lives in. Why do they do that? Kentucky, Indiana, Florida. Why is half the state in one? That's kind of weird. Do you know? I have no idea.
That's a good question. Let's Google it.
Let's do that. All right. Then we have the Central Time Zone, Mountain Standard Time, and Pacific Time. So why the heck are there time zones? Well, they were established actually because of railroads. And with railroads, with shipping, they needed consistent timekeeping that was required so that schedules could be devised and followed. It used to be if it was 12 o'clock in Rochester, New York, it might be 11:50 in Buffalo, New York. So different cities had different times at all the times, and trains would actually have trouble shipping because they didn't know what time it was in each city.
It's all about logistics, right?
It really is, making things simple for them.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk about economic developments in the South. The Civil War ruined the South's economy. It ended slavery, thus killing the plantation system on which Southern wealth was based. During the fighting, plantations had been burned, railroads ripped up, and the region's few factories destroyed. That's Sherman in his march to the sea during the Civil War. The South decided to sell off parts of their land to pay off debts to banks or merchants. Then a group of Southern leaders decided that the South's economy should simply rest on agriculture. So we have something called the New South. Mr. Lawrence, can you tell us about that?
All right, so the economy of the New South is really based off some of the visuals that you see here. You see manufacturing and industry. That is the goal, is to try to diversify, is to make the South not so reliant on those cash crops like cotton, and to give Southern people an opportunity to work in factories, to develop new products in order to be part of this new industrialized economy. part of this is to make sure that railroads are being built as well.
You also have the emergence of mills in the South, particularly steel mills and oil and coal refineries as well. We'll talk a lot about oil during this unit and the next unit because that's going to play a huge, huge role in the industrialization of the United States. So these factories that used to be reserved solely to the North are now moving down to the South.
And one thing that we don't see on this list are things like textile mills. And when we say textiles, we're not talking about the ceiling tiles.
No, we're not. Definitely do not think the ceiling tiles.
We're talking clothing because, again, cotton being produced in the South could then go directly into these textile mills, which were a big part of the development of the New South.
Who would actually think that textiles meant tiles on the ceiling? I don't know. That's weird. What a weirdo. All right, let's talk about the New South continued. We have these two terms that we talked about a little bit last unit, but we're going to reinforce them again. So we have sharecroppers. We spent a whole day talking about them. These were former slaves who rented fields and used part of their crops as payment for using the land. So you essentially would pay for your rent using crops. Then we have tenant farmers, and they are...
So these are former slaves who rented fields and paid cash as a form of payment for using the land. So a little different than sharecroppers.
Sharecroppers use crops. Tenant farmers use cash. So the difference is cash versus crops, or the form of payment that the two used. And we will spend a little more time talking about these guys later. Okay, at the bottom of your page 4, please read along with me. The South still lagged behind the North economically. As a result, many Southerners moved north, particularly African Americans, to search for new jobs. This would occur during the late 19th century and would continue through World War I in the Roaring '20s. This is known as the First Great Migration. Everybody right now, circle and underline for us First Great Migration. Pick up your pen right now and circle it for us, please. All right, now that we have finished that, please turn to the video response section. And for video number 1, in at least 3 sentences, answer the following question. How did the railroad affect economic growth in the United States? Make sure you answer in how many sentences, Mr. Lawrence?
3 complete sentences. We're always learning to write like
historians. And again, if you did not already, please circle and or underline First Great Migration. Thank you.
Check it.
We will check it. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.